Dan Illman, Mike Beer, creeping closer to the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth, an important Kentucky Derby prep. But we've got some of the better turf horses in the country in the Grade 2 Mac Diarmida, the race preceding the Fountain of Youth. Let's throw up the field for race number 13, going 1 mile and 3/8 on the lawn. $200,000 is the purse. Zulu Alfa, the number 6, just a hickory horse, 2-1 on the morning line, coming off the big win in the Pegasus World Cup turf, underrated 4th in the Breeders' Cup turf at Santa Anita 2 starts back. I believe he's the best turf horse in the country right now.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, listen, there's nothing on his page that you can knock. He is versatile in terms of running style. He is versatile in terms of distance. He shows up and runs every time, and he's the morning line favorite.
And he is the horse to beat in the Mac Diarmida. Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race. When you got the 3 a thread of blue in this race, it is a no-brainer from a Timeform US standpoint. A thread of blue is a front runner, and listen, when a thread of blue gets loose, on occasion, he can put this field to sleep, and he's a very dangerous horse. What about the 1 mile and 3/8 for him?
I think he's going to be okay with the distance. I mean, I don't think it's, all said and done what his best distance is. They tried 1.5 miles with him last year. He didn't run poorly in that race, but he didn't run great. This is probably a little better for him, but he does look loose in here.
I agree with you. I am not going to hold that race against him because it took 3 European stayers to beat him.
Yeah.
True stayers to beat him going 1.5 miles. Maybe it's not his favorite distance, but if he goes 51 to the half in here, he's going to be sprinting home, and they're in trouble if he goes slow early. We've talked about Michael Maker claiming horses and just turning them around almost overnight. He's going to try to do it with the number 1 Morocco. Here's his most recent start. He was in for 40 Morocco. He's on the far outside in the black silks, the number 1, and he kind of just finishes evenly. He's 16-1 in a $40,000 claimer. Maker takes him and says, you know something? I got a feeling this horse is going to want to stretch out. We've seen it time and time again. Maker takes middle distance horses, stretches them out in distance, and they seem to reach their potential. We wouldn't be even talking about this horse if Maker didn't claim him.
True enough. I mean, we just saw that replay right there. What was that, a 20-horse photo on the where it didn't look like a very good race to me. This horse certainly didn't have much of an excuse. I mean, listen, when you see Maker claim horses on the turf and then stretch them right out, you always have to take a second look. I can't bet this horse. I couldn't talk myself into him, but I won't be surprised when he improves.
Oh, Nessie, the number 2. Lots of seconds and thirds for Nessie. He won an allowance, his most recent victory in the spring of 2019. He won the San Juan Capistrano, and he got a perfect trip against a weak field in 2018. Yeah. I'm just not sure if Nessie, at this point in his career, he's 7 years old now, is a true graded stakes horse. Now, again, he's been in against some tough European competition in his last 2 races at Woodbine, but he's got to take a step forward off the layoff.
Yeah, I mean, he really does. He is a nice horse and a rock-solid horse. It does feel like maybe he never quite reached the potential it felt like he had at one point. But listen, he's multiple graded stakes placed. He's there, and he's been around it an awful lot. It just feels like he might be in a little tough in a race like this.
Thread of Blue was the king of the beach last year at Gulfstream. He swept through the Dania Beach. He swept through to Palm Beach. He was one of the better 3-year-old turf horses in the country. Tough beat in the Hill Prince by Neptune Storm, who got a nice trip and ran him down. I like that they gave him some time after that race. And Kieran ran him back in the tropical turf, and a mile's a little sharp for him against those kind of horses. I mean, Guy Du is very fast. The Thread of Blue has speed. Guy Du is very, very fast. The Thread of Blue tried to rate. That's not his game.
That's true. He did. It was unfortunate, I guess, for him that he landed in a race with a ton of pace in it. All in all, he looked okay to me sitting off the pace in a 3-wide trip. He just didn't really do that much running. He just sort of stayed evenly throughout. Off the layoff, I guess that's fine. I'll expect him to run better second time back. And again, he looks absolutely loose in this race.
I think Zulu Alfa is the top turf horse in the country. I think Sadler's Joy is not too far behind him right now. He's either 2 or 3, and he has been good for a long, long time, and he likes Gulfstream Park. Talk about the Pegasus World Cup trip.
I mean, first of all, just going into the Pegasus World Cup, it just felt like he was way up against it anyway because he doesn't want to go that short. He wants to go longer than that. I understand why they took the chance to run him in there. His race was basically over right at the start. He got put in between horses, bumped, and steadied back to last and just lost all kinds of position. And then You know, Castellano did what he had to do with him. He's last. He swung him very wide to the stretch, and he raced on. He just couldn't really get involved. Dan, he wants to go longer. This added distance really works to his advantage.
He won this race in 2018 without benefit of a prep. Now he has a prep. The question I have for you is, how would you ride him? When Jose Lezcano was aboard this horse, it appeared that they wanted to get him close to the pace. And lo and behold, he did it, and he did it pretty successfully. Prior to that, he'd always been a one-run closer. When Javier got back aboard him, they went back to those tactics. And we know that those tactics can be a bit dangerous. A, if you don't get pace, and B, if you don't get the trip.
Yeah, it's hard to, get too high on a horse when you know he's going to be coming from last in big fields, because you know he needs some pace and he needs some racing luck. I suspect Castellano's going to do what he always does with this horse. He's going to take him back and he's going to make one run. Channelmaker's
one of the more underrated, multiple Grade 1 winning, classic winning horses in the country or perhaps the world. He won the Breeders' Stakes, by the way, as a 3-year-old in Woodbine in 2017, 2-time Grade 1 winner. All right, he didn't run against bricks and mortar last time out in the turf. And I guess last year was a bit frustrating for Bill Mott. Okay, he won the Man o' War, lots of close but no cigar finishes, but he does have good tactical speed. He likes to go 11, and I think this freshening could go a long way for him.
I'm interested to see what he does off this little layoff, too, because I think he needed it. His Breeders' Cup obviously wasn't his best race, but he's better than that. And the other interesting thing about him, Dan, is he's got some speed. If Junior elects to use it, he could be right up there on the pace with Kieran's horse.
That's right, and he might have a little bit more class than Kieran's horse right now. Kieran's horse might have more upside, but he has more class right now. And if he sits second, he gets the jump on the true closers. The good news is Zulu Alfa, while we've seen him come rallying from way out of it in the Breeders' Cup turf, he has more tactical speed than that. And in the Pegasus, what a ride from Tyler Gaffalione. I mean, he saved ground right in behind horses in the pink. On the turn, it looked like he wanted to go out. And he said, no. I'm going to stay in. Magic Wand, that hard-hitting turf mare, came off the rail, and here comes Zulu Alfa, rallying up the inside. The trip and ride worked out perfectly, but this was now his 6th consecutive triple-digit Beyer victory. He's the horse to beat right now. He loves Gulfstream.
He's the horse to beat. He loves Gulfstream, and he's a very tactical horse, too. He doesn't have to be as far out of it as some of the other horses do. Listen, his last 2 races are just a tale of 2 trips. The Breeders' Cup was a terrible trip. First of all, I don't know how he was last early in there, because he's not that kind of horse.
Wide.
Yeah, and then he just had to come way wide in the stretch. He actually ran really well to be 4th in there, and obviously we just saw that trip really work out for him last time.
And he won this race last year. He's obviously dangerous. Oh, admission office, you're one of my favorites. You fool me all the time. And in the Pegasus World Cup, he just didn't really run to par behind Zulu Alfa that day. But we know what we're getting with admission office, and that's a horse that likes to lag at the back of the pack. He's getting no pace. He often gets himself into trips. He often runs well without winning. He's going to be a price again. What I find interesting is they're going to try to stretch him back out to a marathon route, so to speak. He's only really tried it once when Chad Brown had him, and he ran well, I thought, behind Channel Cat in the Bald Eagle Derby over a yielding turf course. Maybe stretching out is what he wants. I see 15 to 1 at admission office, and I say to myself, one of these days it's going to happen, and thus far I've been wrong.
I feel the same way about him. It just feels like he's due to just catch the right trip at some point and make a big run, because I do think he has talent, Dan. I don't know about him stretching out. We'll see if he really likes it. Last time in the Pegasus, I guess you don't have to be too hard on him for that race, but he sort of felt like he was a little overmatched in that field.
It looked a little bit like he just couldn't step with those horses when they quicken. Maybe a mile and 3/16 is short. We'll see what happens. Occasionally he runs a good race. Spooky Channel, talk about running a good race. This is a horse that's come from Turf Paradise and has become a graded stakes winner at Gulfstream. 36 to 1 last time out for Brian Lynch in the W.L. McKnight. Let's watch Spooky Channel on the outside in the white and checkered blinkers. And Spooky Channel, I thought, ran really well in here, Mike. I mean, he's on his left lead, but he's going to come get this horse cross border, who's okay.
Yeah, cross border had been in decent form for Maker. This horse is just going to grind him down at the end. He was a huge price in this race. He's just going to get up at the end to pull off the upset. It was a new top figure. He is headed the right way right now. We'll see if he can keep it going.
He wants distance. You could argue maybe more distance than a mile and 3/8. Marzo, claim for Maker for 62.5, going 6.5 furlongs. Look what happened 2 starts after that. At a mile and a half, he won the Grade 3 Sycamore. You and I were both disappointed by his performance in the Connolly at Sam Houston last time out, going a mile and a half. We're going to watch that race right now, and Marzo, I thought, had every chance to win it. He's the number 7 on the outside in the yellow cap, and he just is one-paced in the stretch.
I mean, he got a good enough trip in this race. He kept him in the clear all the way up the backstretch. He cruised up to the outside around that final turn, like he was going to go right by this horse on the lead, and you can see there he just never got to him, and he's even going to get outfinished for second. Dan, I was really disappointed in this effort.
Armistice Day completes this field, going out for Barb Minchell. Ran him in an off-the-turf race last time out. Don't hold that against him. A very lightly raced horse who, from a speed figure and class standpoint, seems up against it in this race.
It just feels like a tough spot for him. I liked his race first time out for Barb Minchell last July. He won that stakes race up at Woodbine. I thought he ran fine that day, but he didn't really take a step forward off of that, I didn't think.
Pick time for the Mac Diarmida Stakes. I'm using Zulu Alfa in everything in multiple race wagers, but I will fall for admission office again at a big price and hoping that, hoping maybe that you're right, maybe that there can be a little channel maker going after a thread of blue early, and perhaps the pace sets up for a closer. You like Sadler's Joy, who is probably the best closer.
Yeah, I think he probably is the best closer. And I'm like you, not way against.
No, you have to use him.
You just have to use him. He feels like the right horse. Sadler's Joy, though, is good enough to beat that horse with the right trip.
But we've got the same four in different order. Mike's going 4, 6, 5, 7. I'm going 7, 6, 4, 5. It's the Grade 2 Mac Diarmida, one of a slew of graded stakes races on Fountain Youth Saturday at Gulfstream. The Mac Diarmida has an approximate post time of 5:32 Eastern. Best of luck.